Okay, so BTCI just announced their November distribution amount, and it's $1.01 per share. And so nominally, that feels low, right? But you can get the percentage distribution that still is by multiplying $1.01 forward to 12 months, so about $12, and then you divide that by the current share price, and you can see that it's still in that 25 to 30% yield range, right? That they target. And so they're like, so BTCI is behaving as expected. Bitcoin price is going down, so the share price is going down, and then you're collecting premium for selling away covered calls, right? And so we'll do a full, income breakdown when the distribution actually hits after the Thanksgiving holiday. But what I want to hit today is kind of this like I need to get this just kind of conceptually out there and it's because it's flowing in my head and it's about half thought out in my head. And I think conceptually throwing it on the timeline is going to help a lot with this. Okay. And so there's two really ways. There's three ways to make income when it comes to investing. Kind of. I'm sure there's probably more, but there's three main ones that I think are talked about the most, okay? One is active trading, like active day trading, where you have an entry point and then you have an exit point and you're just buying and selling, right? And then you're removing the profit as your income, okay? The other, number two, is covered calls. So selling a call or selling a put. So selling options, basically. You have a position of a stock or a position of cash, and you're selling calls and selling puts, and you're receiving the premium. And that's the way you create income. There's ETFs. BTCI is an example of an ETF that does that for you. So rather than you having to be sitting in the options chain doing it, you can own the ETF. They take a management fee, and then you're a part of the covered call ETF because that's their strategy, right? And then number three is dividend stocks. So dividend stock investing. Or another fancy way of saying it is also private credit investing. And so I've been calling these financial advisors just kind of because I have a very like Bitcoin specific focus, right? But I've been really trying to zoom out and just trying to understand what if I didn't have this Bitcoin specific focus? What if I had been using the S&P 500 as my like base asset instead of Bitcoin as my base asset? And what if I was just a general investor and I called a financial advisor and said, "Hey, I'm looking to become an income investor. What would happen?" And basically, two things come up. Basically, like REITs, like real estate REITs, and private credit comes up really as kind of the top two options. What's interesting about this now, from being a Bitcoin income focused investor, is Strategy, the company MicroStrategy, CEO Michael Saylor, has just come out with these preferred stocks. So the difference between a preferred stock and a common stock is basically just whether you can vote on who the board is, and then you're all in order of who's the most important in receiving dividends back from the company first in line, right? And so what happens a lot with preferred stocks is they're kind of this like just weird, wonky other thing that like kind of regular retail people don't ever really participate in, right? And speaking of trying to learn new things, here's something I've been getting better at, and it's rotating between AI chatbots. One of them that I have in the mix for me is a sponsor of today's video. I'm very excited about it. It's Venice AI. Venice AI was founded by crypto OG and entrepreneur, you probably heard of him, Eric Voorhees, and I love supporting them, getting the word out about Venice AI. So here's a look behind the scenes of me asking Venice AI about how the MicroStrategy Bitcoin yield curve works. And here's the thing. Sam Altman said on a recent podcast interview, there currently aren't any legal protections for the conversations that you're having with AI chatbots, the way that you would with a lawyer or a doctor or a therapist. That's the exact high level reason why it's important to me to not get married to any one AI chatbot tool, and why you should try out Venice AI. You should build the tool and the skill of being able to rotate between them. Venice runs the leading open source models, and your convos are encrypted and private and only stored on your device. The Venice Pro plan comes with additional features like being able to upload PDFs for instant full summaries. Go to venice.ai Strategy.com/Brian Harrington and enter code Brian Harrington for 20% off a pro plan. Strategy is doing the opposite. They're making their preferred stocks out front and center, easy for everyone to understand, branding them all in a cohesive manner. Like they all start with STRC and then they have a ending letter. So they have names like stride, strife, strike, stretch, right? So they have names, things that you can that pop into your mind, right? And they're like going on YouTube shows and talking about them. And so that's way different than preferred stocks have ever been before. And they pay a dividend, okay? So then what happens now that they have 4 different ones, what is happening is a lot of people are analyzing every day right now. This is why it's like this is very in process. This thought is very in process right now. It basically creates a curve in the same way that debt from the United States, you may have heard of like the treasury market curve, to where there's like short-term treasuries, there's like a 1 year, there's a 2 year, and then there's a 10 year. And then whatever the Federal Reserve is doing like affects the curve of the interest rate, right? Because if I'm going to give away my money for longer, then I want to earn a higher interest rate, right? But if I'm going to get my money back tomorrow, then I'm okay to accept a lower interest rate. Okay? And so basically, and that's what, when you think of like a high yield savings account, so when you go open a SoFi high yield savings account or some of these things, the reason why the bank is able to give you a high yield savings account is because they are investing in United States debt behind the scenes, okay? So Bitcoin Strategy has made a Bitcoin yield curve for the first time, where they have all these different preferred stocks that have different yields on them, right? Different dividend payments, okay? And then it's all over collateralized by the Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Okay, why is this related to BTCI? And why is this related? Because there's 3 kinds of creating income off your investment: active trading, selling options, investing in dividend stocks, okay? Strategy has now created this Bitcoin yield curve, and really understanding the Bitcoin yield curve is going to unlock something powerful for you. What it's going to unlock, and this is what I've been spending almost all my time really trying to understand the Bitcoin yield curve right now, because it's then going to allow me to take BTCI, which I like BTCI's team. I like the yield that it pays. I like the concept of covered calls. I'm comfortable with the underlying asset, Bitcoin. So it all checks the box of something that I want to participate in long term, right? Putting that in context, putting that 25 to 30% BTCI yield in context on the Bitcoin yield curve will help you analyze the growth and the income that it could have versus other opportunities. The other thing that this will help you do is a lot of other people throw out these other companies, these other Bitcoin treasury companies, right, that are going to copy the strategy playbook and come out with their own preferred stocks now, right? What that's going to let you do is it's going to let you take their settings and how theirs works and put it on the Bitcoin yield curve. And so now every single person here, every single person watching can take into account their own life and be like, what degree of growth and income do I personally want right now? What degree of growth and income do I personally want right now? And you'll be able to pick anywhere on the curve or invest in multiple parts of the curve and create a really, really like custom plan to you. And so that's what we've done, is that inside the Bitcoin Personal Finance Think Tank, we've broken out separate rooms for really analyzing the Bitcoin yield curve and then really analyzing the covered call options market and what's happening with options income and what's happening with the Bitcoin yield curve. And with the whole end goal of being able to have this really clean line of every option available on the Bitcoin yield curve so that people can very customizably find what's right for them. And so wherever you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, I hope you had a great Thanksgiving holiday. Really appreciate you all being here. My brain has expanded a ton in the last couple months. And so doing this with you has been so fun. If you made it all the way to the end, I think you would really enjoy being a part of the Bitcoin Personal Finance Think Tank. So hit join next to the subscribe button, find your way to the Discord, and we'll see you in there.